Good day, colleagues, or is it good evening? I've tried to actually observe protocol by listening very tentatively as the various speakers have been coming up, and I hope I got it right in terms of saying the hellos. So I'll start with the chairperson of the council. Good evening, council members, ex-council members, various members of the subcommittees, the vice chancellor and principal, executive management, other esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good evening. When I walked in particular, I heard Prof actually saying that you're going to probably get answers with regards to fees must fall, etc., etc. So I'm managing my risk right from the word go. First and foremost, this is the brief that I was given, and I shall stick strictly to this brief. I am going to have a chat about the value of risk management. I'm going to chat about external environment assessments for decision making. We're going to speak a little bit about strategy and risk, the links thereof, and we're also going to speak at length about the future of risk management within South Africa, and in particular, obviously, the higher education sector. Do not worry. I will touch here and there on some of the other issues, but I'll stay clear because I still need a job tomorrow. I've got a young daughter. So colleagues, just on that, I found it prudent for us to actually just say who we are as far as the National Treasury is concerned. I do find that when we do speak, people have the notion that we actually have the money. It isn't so. The money is appropriated through acts by Parliament. We are just the middleman. So, just on that. As far as our functions and powers are concerned, obviously, this comes from the PFMA, and it speaks about the promotion of government fiscal policy frameworks. I'll touch on that a little bit later. Coordination of intergovernmental financial and fiscal relations. Obviously, our key event every single year, which is the budget. So if you see there, the words are very specific. We actually manage the budget process. Manage the budget process, not necessarily give budget. That's done through other structures. It's actually done through an act. Control the implementation of the annual national budget, obviously facilitate the implementation of the Division of Revenue Act, monitor the implementation of provincial budgets, and then this is where we come in as the Office of the Accountant General, as I've been introduced. Our role is the promotion and enforcement of effective management in terms of revenues, expenditures, assets, and liabilities. So I'm going to be speaking around that, colleagues. Fees must fall falls into that. Again, managing my risks. Colleagues, this is just our organizational structure in terms of the way we look. The last time we checked, Minister Pavin was still our minister, Deputy Minister Jonas. Funny enough, there with regards to Minister Jonas, as you see, we share names. Well, his surname is my name is his surname. So at the Treasury, I do get his calls. So as part of my CV for my next speeches, I will be putting in that for the 30 seconds when the wrong call was routed to me, I was the Deputy Minister of Finance of the Republic of South Africa. Because it goes along the lines of saying, good day, is this Mr. Jonas? Yes, this is Mr. Jonas. Mr. Jonas, this is Mr. Brian Mulefe from Eskom. And I'm like, I don't think I'm the Jonas that you had ideas of speaking to. But I will in the future put that in my CV because I have, for 30 seconds of that call, acted as the Deputy Minister of the country. Colleagues, we fall into that particular block there with Mr. Jace Nair, who is our DDG, our acting DDG. And literally as we speak, that's how we are structured. Mr. Sachs is the man who, in essence, is tasked with finding the 16-odd billion, the 90-odd billion that we speak about, depending on what we are talking about. So that's the budget office. Again, I'm managing my risks, colleagues. The Accountant General, I come from that particular division there. As you'll see, we've got various sort of support models in risk management, internal audit, accounting, etc. So that's where we are, and that's how I fit into the bigger picture. Now let's go into what I've been brought here for, colleagues, very quickly. Legislatively, risk management, we're speaking of Section 38 of the PFMA. It speaks about how the accounting officer needs to have efficient and effective systems of internal control, transparent systems, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But in essence, the legislative foundation for risk management is in that particular section there. The Treasury regulations then, the previous Treasury regulations then go forward a little bit to say that we need to do annual risk assessments, etc. And that comes through with that section of 3.32.1. But again, we've gone a step further as our particular office. We've actually gotten a public sector risk management framework that we've actually issued to say, could you please help out our particular people in terms of saying how would we go about in implementing this monster that is risk management, as we've said. But why would we want to do all of this? And if it's my message today, please, if you are doing this for compliance, let's not do it. Let's get the audit finding from Mr. Magwetu and just let it go. It's a whole, risk management is embedded in its particular definition, and I will get into that particular definition later. But if there's anything that you take away, even if I'm boring for the next lot of slides, I've got 20 in total. If I am that boring, please, colleagues, take this away from me. Please, please, please. Why do we do risk management? And that is a question that I'm going to try to answer as I go through my particular slides. Now, I would like to start off with a particular example. In the study of ethics, there's particular concepts. Everybody always speaks about ethics. It's quite interesting to actually research. But Philippa Foot in 1967 actually presented this as a particular issue. This apparently in America is called a trolley. In South Africa I'd call that a train, but they call it a trolley. And in essence, the whole trolley problem was in essence this. You colleagues are standing there. The trolley, two tracks, two paths. The trolley on one track, if you leave it unattended, is going to kill 5 people. Somebody must die. I need to make this upfront, because when I always say this, people say, but there's another option. No, somebody is going to die. So 5 people are going to die on one track. 1 person is going to die on another track. The trolley has only 2 tracks. And you are standing there and you've got the lever in your hand. Now, colleagues, this is where I need your participation, because I'm not going to speak for 20 minutes. How many of us would leave that trolley to kill 5 people? Remember, your intervention is going to cause 1 person to die, or non-intervention thereof is going to cause 5 people to die. So how many of us would leave it to kill 5 people? This is why I set out the rules initially. The story is a very simple one. 5 people are going to die. 1 person is going to die. Human beings, thank you, ma'am. If you pull the lever, 1 person is going to die. How many of us would leave it to kill the 5 people? No. Okay. How many of us would actually change that and say that maybe 1 person should die rather than the 5? And then the rest of us, colleagues? Okay, for the people who said they want 1 person to die, please keep your hands up quickly. Please. Please, please, please. So we all have family, right? No, sir, no, it doesn't work that way. We all have family. If that 1 person is your family member, does the decision change versus the 5 strangers? I'm introducing a concept here, colleagues. Firstly, the first option that you had chosen when you raised your hand, it was out of ration. 1 person versus 5 people. Now 5 people are there. Or 1 person is there who's your family member. The trade-off becomes so different, yes? That, colleagues, that is the problem with higher education in the country at the moment. Whether it be fees must fall, whether it be students, whether it be, that is the problem. that we are facing, the complex problem that we spoke about in terms of the issues. We are dealing with trade-offs that are like that. Some are irrational, some are rational, depending on which day of the week it is, depending on who you are speaking to. That is the problem. We cannot oversimplify the problems that we have. Meaning, for the rest of the presentation, if you could please keep this in mind as a theme. Higher education in this country is complex. It's irrational at times in terms of decision making. But we need to do it in such a process, or we need to actually go back into processes that help us get to some sort of level of rationality, some sort of level where the majority of us as South Africans are going to be comfortable with the sort of decisions that we take. That is the trolley problem, the trade-off of decisions. Now, I wanted to start off with this so that we can also keep this in mind, so that we don't have differing definitions of what we're speaking about here. In essence, we are speaking about risks to, or uncertainties to service delivery. It doesn't matter what we are doing. If everything that we do impacts on service delivery, whatever it is, that event that's going to come, that's going to impact on service delivery, that's how we look at risk in the public sector. So the houses that the Auditor General was speaking about, anything that prevents those houses from being built, that is risk for us, and it should be defined as such. Now, this means that the big elephants in the room also need to be sorted out. We need to speak to them. We cannot run away from them. But I'll get to that a little bit later. I'll keep you in suspense. Now, the value of risk management that I was asked to speak about, I could have gone and done the theoretical stuff and said, risk management reduces waste, But I thought that if I use a particular case study, colleagues, this will actually be etched in your minds for a very long time. The value of risk management starts here. So this is the Washington Monument in America. The line where the Washington Monument is actually sitting, you've got Capitol, which is the equivalent of their parliament, and then you've got a war museum, and then you've got the Lincoln Museum, and you've got other museums just next to it. They are all built of that funny American, you've seen it all in movies, that white stuff that they use for everything. This stuff here. Very brittle, very funny, but that's how the Americans do it. So the Washington Monument had a problem. The problem was that the Washington Monument attracted so many pigeons that these pigeons, their droppings, as acidic as they are, we've seen them on our cars, were actually damaging the monument. What happened? Then they went into a room, a bosbrand, is that the right word? Yes, they went into a bosbrand and said, what do we do as far as this is concerned? They sat around and they said, no, but we can use harsher chemicals, because the ones that we are using, the sunlight, the green sunlight that we are using is not good enough. So we need harsher chemicals so that we can clean the pigeon droppings. But the harsher chemicals had an issue, or cleaning agents had an issue, because now they were destroying this funny, brittle sort of material that they use to build these lovely monuments with. Then the risk manager in the room, and this is a true story, the risk manager in the room said, hang on, why are the pigeons there? Whereas we have so many other monuments in the same vicinity. Why do we have this problem with this particular monument? Then they asked the question, why? They found out that the pigeons were there because of the spiders. Pigeons eat spiders, apparently. Then the risk manager asked, thank you, colleagues, why are the spiders there? The spiders, they love these little insects. They're called gnats. I don't know how to always pronounce it. G-N-A-T-S. So the spiders love those particular insects. Then the next question was, why are they there? It was found out that during winter, the lights are on an hour before the normal sunset. During summer, the sun sets later by an hour. What happens with the Washington Monument is the gnats are actually attracted by light, as you've seen with most insects. But with the Washington Monument, what they did during summer is they did not change the switching of those particular lights. They went on automatically an hour before all the other monuments lights switched on, attracting all of these insects because it's the only monument that's lit at that given moment in time. The solution from the risk manager was to switch on the lights an hour later. No cleaning agents, no money, no additional anything. You switch on the lights an hour later, gnats are not there. The gnats are not there, the spiders are not there. The spiders are not there, the pigeons are not there. The Washington Monument does not have a problem. That, colleagues, is the value of risk management in a nutshell. If you can please remember that particular example when we speak of risk management. Now, what is risk management in essence? The theory. And I'd like to skip very quickly past this. It's a systematic and formalized process. Basically, it's us being deliberate about decision making. And I'll test this through you, esteemed colleagues. How many of us did the driver's license thing, K50 something, or the ones that are older? Or so we all did that. And we all said that every morning when we go into our particular cars, we will check the... No, we said this. We all said... You did, AG, as well. You did, yes, AG. You said you checked the fan belt and the oil. You did, AG. You did. How many of us did that this morning? And I always get that answer to say cars have changed. Your car is very automatic. There's a switch there that says check everything. Did you, because remember, again, this is where the AG spoke about performance. You had said that you're going to do one thing when you started. You said you're going to check these things when you got your license, Chair. Now you've got it. It's a different story now. This speaks to human behavior. It's not that we are bad at times. It's not that it's a will and skill thing. Sometimes it's a skill thing, sometimes a will thing. But human beings and human behavior dictates that we act in a certain way when life gets in the way, if I could put it that way. Again, going back to the trolley thing. That's what we do. We do not mean to get into our cars and just go, but that's what happened. Life happens like that. Risk management comes in and says, oh, please check the fan belt the way you said you're going to check it. Document it, formalize it, make it systematic so that you do not get caught on the side of the road. That, in a nutshell, is what risk management is all about. It's not a separate process somewhere with an ERM unit of UNISA sitting in another room. It doesn't work that way. It's as you take decisions every single day, whether it's about fees falling, whether it's about access, whether it's about globalization, knowledge, all of those particular things, it's about you saying, hang on, am I going through a systematic and formalized process of making decisions? Let's speak about the external environment. So the external environment, when we're doing risk, these are the big elephants in the room. You need to talk about them. They are there, they exist, very, very much so. We are in the public sector. We are in the public sector, and this space here. No, Chair, I did not. No. These particular principles play a major role in our lives. Whether we like them or not, whether they are good to us or not, they play a major role. And at times, when we make decisions and when we sit and draft our plans, etc., we forget, or in certain areas, we'd rather not deal with them as administrators, etc., which is absolutely wrong. Because what's going to happen is they will come and say no or yes. And their no or yes is much more heavier than your no or yes. And then we become frustrated. They are important stakeholders that we must include. As you can see, I'm trying to save my job by including my minister there. The National Development Plan. So the National Development Plan speaks about higher education specifically, and it says higher education basically has 3 areas that it must talk to. Obviously, we speak about our pillars of social or inequality, unemployment, poverty. Those are the pillars that this particular plan is built underneath. Those are the pillars. But it says then, it further goes on and says, higher education, what's the space that you need to be playing? Now it says, higher education, you need to deliver human resources for the economy. But then the second one is actually very critical for me, and I like it because I've never seen it this way. It says, higher education, you need to come up with new knowledge and find, more importantly for me, find other uses for old knowledge. And then it ends up by saying that higher education, you are the driver of opportunities for social mobility and equality in the country. That's what the National Development Plan speaks to. So every single little thing that we do, whether we achieve or not, and by the way, I am a UNISA alumni. I saw that scores points. But what is UNISA supposed to be doing? And all higher education, they're supposed to be producing people who come through with skills and knowledge, people who come with solutions for the South African problems that we have. That's what higher education's role is. If you're not doing that, then you are failing. Because, again, what is risk? That which hampers me from achieving my particular objectives. Now, if the objective is to do all of these particular things, again, we need to have a different conversation. I wanted to actually test very quickly as well with this particular slide as far as the external environment assessments are concerned. Colleagues, how many of us know what this logo is? Okay. I asked people in my office, none of them knew. Zero. It's worrying. It's worrying. It's very worrying. Uber is a disruptor. Again, I need to put this in a case study format. South Africa says that our transportation industry, for instance, we speak of transformation in the country. So we've got transformation goals, etc., in the country, as far as where we want every single sector to be. Every single sector needs to be representative of what the country looks like. Uber comes in and says, I don't care. Uber says, anybody who's got a car can actually participate in that. Your BE codes from the Department of Trade and Industry fly out of the window. Just like that. And more of these Uber sort of disruptors are coming. I will get to higher education at the moment. YouTube says to me, I taught myself photography on YouTube. I taught myself how to play a guitar on YouTube. Now the music school here in UNISA, the music department, has lost a student. Because before I would come through and learn how to play guitar. Now I go on YouTube. My brother learned how to program on YouTube. And so on and so on and so forth, etc. Now, when we do our particular risk assessments as UNISA, do we even talk about the likes of YouTube? Do we have responses to the likes of YouTube? Because they are slowly cannibalizing our markets. We are going to end up like the likes of TDK if we are not careful. It's the truth. TDK, I don't know if they don't even exist in the format that they used to be. 90. I am told, I'm reliably told. Now, part of the revenue stream of our particular higher education in the areas, part of the revenue stream stems from books, hard copy books. So you do speak about the knowledge that's inside. Obviously, that will forever stay the same. But there's also a premium for the printing. There are people who are working in our printing departments. We've got big printing departments, etc. All of those people are at risk of being replaced by those particular devices. All of them. Now, Chair, as your printing department, I know you've got one of the biggest because you do long distance. All of those people are at risk of being out of jobs because of these particular devices. The question is, when we speak risk and when we speak strategy, are these sort of things actually being taken into account? What are we saying about them? Funny enough, higher education institutions are the best placed to actually do these things. Studies, research, they're highly geared to actually talk us all through this. So today, again, today I'm challenging you to say, please help us, the rest of us, who do not have these research capabilities. I've just given a thesis topic for free. Again, external environment as we speak. What do we need to also look at? The external environment, we're talking about our growth rates. Growth rates in the country, 0.0% according to the South African Reserve Bank. And we'll take it, we'll trust them. We'll trust that they know what they are speaking about or talking about. What does that mean for UNISA? Or the higher education institutions? We've got a weakening rand. We all know about it. We all know the reasons, some of the reasons to it as well. We've got an environment where we've got fiscal consolidation. The Minister of Finance has actually spoken to this. Parliament has actually passed through this. We are going to have we do currently have tax measures that we're trying to introduce to get more revenue into the fiscus. We are and we will continue to reprioritize some of our spending. We've got expenditure ceilings where we are saying we cannot move from here. At the moment, you're looking at anything between 10 to 12% of our costs going towards debt service costs in essence. Now, those things are not going to move. We've taken a position as a country to say, we've actually said to the Moody's and the Standard & Poor's of this world, we've said to them, we as South Africa are going down this path and we are going to stay on that path, colleagues. What does that mean for you? It means, at a very oversimplified level, anything new that you wanted to do, you have to find money from the existing base. That's what it means. Means if you don't have a retirement, you can't get additional anybody. If you don't have somebody leaving, you don't have. At the moment, for instance, at the National Treasury, I was laughing because somebody was asking for my card. Cost containment measures. We can't print cards, business cards. I can't print that. It's a non-essential service. I can take my phone. So everybody who wants my contact details, I'll take my phone and email you very quickly my contact details. Because those are non-essential expenditures that we, for instance, as a Treasury, are trying to lead by example in saying, so UNISA, if you are on the same path, we would appreciate no more, but it's just an idea. At Treasury, for instance, if you're coming for a meeting, colleagues, I will give you biscuits out of my own pocket. The very best you're going to get is coffee and water and tea. Yeah, we'll zama you with tea. But that's the very best that you're going. Why? Because those particular things are non-essential spendings that we're trying to get through into the system to say, South Africa we are not going to go and get more debt. And what that means is that we need to find everything within the particular base that we have at the moment. We need to become more efficient. We need to become more streamlined. Now, this is where we start challenging the established sort of institutions along the lines of the UNISAs of this world, etc. We were having a discussion yesterday with the executive director. UNISA, and colleagues, please don't take this the wrong way. UNISA has a particular base of costs. Every year what we've done in terms of budgeting, we've added inflation here and there, etc. That's how we've always budgeted. Majority of departments do the same thing. That's what we do as a country. We are saying you need to challenge that base. We need to challenge whether we need as many buildings as we have. We need to challenge whether we need a library in the manner in which it is, the form and shape that it is. We need to challenge functions, how we do things. We need to challenge how we teach. We need to challenge how we lecture. Every single cost in there needs to be interrogated. We need to be deliberate about the decisions that we make. We need to be systematic and formalized in terms of how we make decisions. Strategic planning. This, in essence, is a rough draft of what we do everywhere. This particular area here, what I'm encouraging and what I'm advocating for is that at every single one of those particular steps, risk management must be there. And not risk management in that they come in and talk in a certain, no. The people who are supposed to be asking, why are the pigeons there? Why are the spiders there? Every single one of those, even at objective setting. And AG, I'm going to help you here, I hope. With objective setting, if you open up your strategic plan or annual performance plan or your strategic documents, any one of them, and it has the following words: efficient, effective, advocacy, what's mainstreaming, that's the other one. You are going to have problems at the end of the year. I can tell you from the beginning. Why? Because English has this ability to say so many things without saying anything at all. When you say to somebody effective management, what does that mean? You will get a million answers just here, as we are sitting here, colleagues. Now, the minute somebody says efficient, effective, mainstreaming, advocacy, those words, now that I've told the AG is going to put in their audit program, so maybe you might want to get a heads up on that. But those words I've seen, and we've seen in our particular experiences, that they create problems. It's a simple thing. I am going to teach kids, and I'm going to teach 10 kids. And I'm going to teach 10 kids by December the 31st. Very simple. We look at it, we know what we are doing. But when you start going, I'm going to have an effective system, an efficient system of a quality education that embeds slippery slide. So I do ask that at a very elementary level, we start speaking risk at this level here. Funny enough, one of the analysis that we had done, and it was all on the AG's previous reports, was it's the most worrying fact, is that the departments that get performance wrong, in most cases, are frontline service delivery departments. Frontline. You'll get to treasury, you will have one or two, etc. But we're not frontline. The education, the health of this world, etc. Frontline, they get performance wrong. And that bothers us quite a lot. And it should, as a country, bother us quite a lot. Now, this particular concept is very important to illustrate what I was speaking about here very quickly. We've got risks of the strategy and we've got risks to the strategy. Most of us do what we call risks to the strategy. You write, you say, I'm going to do this, and then you call the ERM team in and you say, hey, come up with risks there. The risks of the strategy speaks about the particular assumptions that you've made. We've made assumptions that UNISA next year is going to be able to get so many students. That's the assumption that we've made. We've made the assumption that UNISA will get such funding. That's the assumption that we've made. Risk management, in most cases, does not happen at that level. Risk management comes in here, where you've decided that you're going to build a house. And you say, okay, what are the risks around building a house? But you haven't assessed the fact, or you haven't assessed the risks of taking the decision to build a house. So we actually start our risk management process later than where we should actually be starting it. This comes from the Global Competitiveness Report. I thought just to flash it so that we can see where we are as far as the sector. That 140, we are 140 out of 140 countries. That one there. 140 out of the 140 assessed countries. That's our global competitiveness as a country. But there's a silver lining in accounting. Like as I was introduced, I'm working on the World Bank report. We are number 1 in the whole world. So IRBA, SAICA, the works, number 1 in that particular area. But now it still means that we've got a lot of work to do there. Even that 138, quality of the education system, 138 out of 140. Now we can always question these things and say, are they right, are they wrong, do they assess properly, etc. But at some point they speak to something that we should maybe be looking at. Now my question is, when we actually do our strategies, etc., does risk management come into the room with this particular sort of information, not data? Gone are the days when risk management says, what are your risks? And then you put them down and you put red, blue, green, and then they are done. It doesn't work that way. This is the sort of information that should be coming through. Why are we 138? Why are we 140 out of those particular countries? There is a particular report that came out from the Council of Higher Education, quite a brilliant report. It speaks about 2 decades of democracy. In there, you actually have your risk assessment done. The identification has been done for us. It's an amazing report. Unfortunately, it's just too big, but it's an amazing report that if we spend time actually just reading, actually speaks to quite a lot of identification of risks. It speaks to access, and that obviously we don't have to speak much about when we come to the fees must fall, those sort of particular movements. Then it speaks to the academic staff capacity. It says that, this particular report, it says that we are teaching more and more diverse backgrounds of students. In the African culture, I cannot look at you in the eye. It's disrespectful if you are an elder. Those particular things, it means that more and more of those students, now you need to understand that in the African culture, a lady must walk behind because I'm protecting her in front. I'm not saying go. In the the interpretation is different. You can't say go first into danger. That's the interpretation in the African culture. So when I do these things, and when we are sitting in a classroom, and when you are lecturing as educators, and when you're imparting skills and knowledge, etc., these are the sort of things that you need to be dealing with. Now, are we equipped to deal with that? I might be amazing. I might be an amazing CASA, and I might know the debits and credits from here till forever. IFRS 19, back of my hand, etc. But those particular challenges, those particular inhibitors of my objective, those are going to actually cost us in terms of skills transfer or knowledge transfer. You are not going to be able to impart knowledge and build skills for the economy because you do not understand those diverse backgrounds. The question is, are we skilled in that? And it speaks about the curriculum, and it speaks about the canons of knowledge versus relevance to the economy. In South Africa, for instance, we speak about, I've been very fortunate to service the small business department. Amazing group of individuals, very small budget, very energetic minister. Amazing energy in that department. They start speaking about other sectors of the economy, and they start speaking about us expanding into those particular economies. They start speaking about, they say to us, we need to be doing more creative work. And you're like, okay. And they say we need to be doing more movies. And you say, okay. I played golf the other day with a buddy of mine, or not a buddy of mine, an acquaintance. I never knew him actually. Played golf with him, and he told me that he's an animator. And I asked him, where did you study? He says, I cannot get any animation, anything here to the level that I need it for as far as my work is concerned. So he had to piece together his own sort of skill set, degrees, etc., etc., as far as animation is concerned. Now, it speaks of a disjuncture because we said that we want creative arts to improve, but now on the other side, we do not have a particular skills pipeline for those particular crafts. Whether he was right or wrong, you can tell me, colleagues, whether we do have animation in this country, but that's what he said to me. We speak about, I've never seen this word before, but I know that you as academics have probably seen this word over and over again. So I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that word. Never seen it before, but now I know it. But it speaks to the study of education. At least I Googled that word. It says that we need to move away from knowledge transmissions to competency outcome-based. Again, speaking to the canon of knowledge. You can't just pump knowledge my way. It must be relevant to what we want to do. And then lastly, it speaks of the mode of delivery. That mode of delivery is key. It's extremely, extremely important for me, given where the technology is going. Because you will end up having one lecture lecturing everybody in the country through teleconferencing or whatever. That is a reality. You will have, even worse, you will have a lecturer from America Skyping in, or Europe, and speaking to our particular individuals if we are not careful in terms of that as well. The question is, when we do our risk assessments, when we speak, when we do strategy, is that an area where we are? The future of risk management, as I go down the home stretch. The future of risk management does not lie in legislation. And I have to say this again, the future of risk management does not lie in legislation. How many of us, the sign says 60. How many of us actually go over 60 in those 60 meter zones, 60 kilometer per hour zones? We all have done it once or twice in our life. It's okay, we don't have to put up our hands, colleagues. But you know the regulation. So regulation does not dictate behavior in SA. It's a bigger discussion of culture. It's a bigger discussion of us embedding this discipline of formalized, systematic, being deliberate about the sort of decisions that we are making. That's the culture that we should be inculcating, not writing policies. Nobody ever even reads those particular policies, to be honest. We must spend a whole lot more time in giving shape and life to those particular policies. Because they are there, we all know them. UNISA, for one, goodness gracious. If you're an employee of UNISA, there are a number of policies that are actually applicable to you. 100, 200, 300? How many have you read? It's a different conversation. So it's rather about us getting to a culture rather than legislating. But please write the policies for compliance. But do what the policies ask us to do. If we can spend a little bit more time on that particular aspect. Future of risk management, we speak about black swan events. Basel in the insurance industry. Basel says that you must be able to forecast a 1 in 200 year event. The insurance industries are required to do this, the banks, etc. A 1 in 200 year event. Those are the black swan events. Our black swan events. It was a black swan. We don't have energy crises all the time. It was our black swan. But have we learned from this black swan? If we were to have another mini energy relapse, would we experience the same issues that we experienced? That means we as an organizations have not learned. We did nothing with those experiences. We did nothing with that knowledge. Cybercrime is another one. The future, this is where the future is. The ability of students to hack into these databases, for instance, for exam questions and papers, etc. Very easy. Have we thought about it? Let me give you an example quickly. The printers that we have, we mostly lease those printers, yes, colleagues? The printers that we have, we lease quite a lot of them. After we lease those particular devices are so advanced, they've got hard drives in them. When we give them back to the person who leased them to us, the lessor, we give away every single piece of information that has ever gone through those particular printers to that lessor. We give it and we sign off. That's what we do. That's the world that we're living in. That's the risky world that we're living in. Those are the things that we need to be thinking about all the time, every time. Cybercrime, like I did say, it's a big thing at the moment. This as well is something that needs to come through very strongly. The World Economic Forum, every year, they release these particular things and they speak about the global risks. Very important. Some of these things that are here hurt us quite a lot. At the moment, we're experiencing a water crisis. As you've seen, the particular restrictions, the Vaal River is underneath 50%, etc. Now, the question that I'd be asking the Department of Water and Sanitation is, this was released a while back. What did you do? How deliberate were you? How proactive were you in terms of preparing for these particular things there? And some of these here speak also of us. For instance, the likelihood side here, large-scale migration. UNISA, you see it all the time. You've got an influx of students from all other provinces wanting to study, wanting to settle around here. How do you deal with that, given fees must fall, given expenditure ceilings? I also wanted to show you just how relevant this is and how critical it is. Moody's, when they released our particular credit rating, they spoke of one area, and I wanted to highlight it, and I'll read it for everybody. They said that they've got a negative outlook as far as we are concerned. Their number one problem was with South Africa. The negative outlook speaks to the implementation risks associated with the structural and legislative reforms that government, business, and labor recently agreed in order to restore confidence and encourage private sector investment. The problem with them, they say that at a macro level, we are fine. Our plans look. We go one level down, where the tire hits the track, where the shovel hits the soil, the ground. That's where they have issues with us. And that level, colleagues, is where we come in immediately after. Immediately after. Because higher education, basic education, health, education, that's where we are. So immediately there, where implementation must actually take place, that's where they've got issues with us. The Auditor General spoke about the municipalities, that's where they've got issues with us. This I just put here, and I'll quickly go through it. I'll skip through it very quickly. But in essence, what we're trying to do is we're trying to move from a controls-based sort of approach to one where we've got information. The one that, a system that produces not data, but information, things that we can use in decision making. So the way you can actually just look at your maturity model as far as UNISA is concerned, or any other tertiary institution, is to just say, as far as risk management is concerned, the sort of data that's coming out of, or the sort of information that's coming out of there, or intelligence, where does it fall as far as that's concerned? And I'm doing a little bit of selling here very quickly for the National Treasury. There's a free course available on everything that I've just spoken about on our website. It's 21 modules, web-based. You can go do it free. I'd like to conclude with the Honorable Minister's budget speech. I would like to take an extract from that. He said, we are resilient, we are committed, we are resourceful. We know how to turn adversity into opportunity as a country. So given the 0% increases, 0% growth rates that we have, given the fact that we are going to need to reprioritize, given the fact that the global outlook does not look as good as it should be, given the issues of the fees must fall, or no fee policies, etc. Given all of those things, we're going to find solutions to those particular problems, because we are South Africa at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jonas, and thank you for listening to me.